Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Nexus Grain Market Updates. It is Tuesday morning, the 9th of December, 2025 at 9:50 a.m. Let's get straight to the markets. Price of corn right now is up 2 pennies. It's the Chicago Board of Trade for old crop corn. That puts my price across the Nexus terminals, a range of $4.11 to $4.12. The new crop corn, I do have some people that are watching that right now. Get to that. That's following along in fairly good lockstep with the old crop right now. I'm at $4.24 across my terminals for new crop corn. Soybean market, I cannot say the same for that. Soybean market is off 3 pennies this morning on 10.16 to 10.21 for a bushel of old crop soybeans. That's down 3 pennies. The new crop soybeans following somewhat, looks like we're off about 3.5 pennies there, 10.23 to 10.28. Okay, so corn market has been fairly steady. Right now we're off about a nickel from a week ago. This time a month ago we're up about 20 cents. So the corn market is still reflecting some strength, primarily that we're experiencing from our export program that we have on. I'll get into that here in a minute here as we get into the program today. Soybeans have been under a tremendous amount of pressure this past week, and it's basically a currency thing. I want to talk about that. To really start out with comparing January soybeans to the Brazilian real, I want to show you a chart, January 2026 soybeans. I laid these two charts out next to one another on my desk, and I come up with some fairly interesting things. One, since last Thursday, a bushel of beans is down about 2.4%. The value of the Brazilian real is down about 2.2%. Okay, so they seem to be, I wouldn't exactly call that lockstep, but they are pretty well in concert with one another. So I dug into this a little bit deeper, and here's a chart of the January 26 soybean market. It established its low on the 9th of April at $9.85. The high on the 18th of November, $11.69. When I look at the range of the mean price between the high and the low, January soybeans is plus or minus 8.5%. Okay, so obviously that's some measure of volatility. But I took this one step further and I went to the real. I said, okay, how does this really compare to the real, and how has the real behaved in comparison to the bean market? How's this really compared in the past, I'll call it the production year? Curiously, when I look at the nearby futures of the Brazilian real, and you have to remember with currencies, there really is no storage cost with currency. With currency, the cost to carry is all about interest rates. The April 9, 2025 established the low of the Brazilian real at 16.35. High was established on November 12, 2025 at 18.93. Coincidentally, and I'm not a great believer in coincidence, but coincidentally, the low of these two markets were established on the very same day. The high was established within about a week of one another, the 18th versus the 12th of November. So let's dig into this just a little bit deeper. The range that established was plus or minus 7.3% of the mean. And at that point in time, you're probably wondering, gee whiz, these two markets seem to be tracking fairly close. So let's just lay these down side by side. Soybeans versus currency. When I take a look at the January 26 beans and I plot that against the Brazilian real in red, you'll see when I index everything back to the April 1, first day of April, I call that I'll call that the baseline. We'll just label that 100. And move forward, anything plus or minus of 100 is just that, plus or minus of 100. What you see is actual divergence in those two values. You see that the beans right now are stacked in at 104, the Brazilian real at 111.27. Really, what that tells all of us is that a soybean is a much more stable, and we'll call it a currency at this point, A soybean is a much more stable currency than the Brazilian real. The Brazilian real, we've seen quite a bit of upslope in the real. The past 3 days, we've seen a dramatic sell-off, and that's what's got into our beans. That's what we're being told, at least. So that's really the technical report on soybeans. Let's move forward to our fundamentals. We do have a WASD today at 11 o'clock. Most people are looking at a corn carryout somewhere in the order of about 2.14, 2.145. The bottom line is the December report is not known for being a particular market mover. What we're seeing today is probably what we're going to see, what we've seen in the very last report, plus or minus maybe 1% or something like that. Typically, we don't see much change. Now, the one difference today is that we indeed seen a period of time where we went a long period without good data. Okay, so 2025-26 crop year may be somewhat of an outlier, but I'm not looking for that. The bean number at 306 is the average guess. I can draw a model that is showing anywhere from about 330 down to about 290. Okay, the big thing with soybeans is that what is going to happen in China, of course, and what are we really going to end up shipping? Our export inspections right now we're off about 15% of pace to hit our export number. We believe the market probably is trading at about $1.6 billion, $1.62 for an export number. At the end of the day, we may see this thing shrink down to about $1.5 billion, $1.7 billion, something like that. But the numbers that we're looking at are probably still trading somewhere around a bean carryout of about 350 or so. So that's about what it is. That's about all I have today. I do want to thank all of you for your business. I know that we're approaching holidays, it's tax season for most of you. I do encourage all of you. You will be getting calls. Those of you that still have signatures on the deferred payments, we do require all those deferred agreements to be signed before we can cut checks on those in January. So don't be alarmed if you get a call from somebody. We do require that those be followed up with. That is a state requirement. So with that said, again, thanks for your business. Nexus Cooperative, we want to be your full service supplier of all your agricultural needs. So with that, talk later. Goodbye now.